everyone, and welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. Now, I am aware it's December and I am filming and posting a video, even though I said I wouldn't do it until the new year, but I wanted to do my Little Women review. So this is the Louisa May read-along. It is the Louisa May 2020, which is hosted by Megan Hannah and Kate Howe. So this is just my thoughts on Little Women. This is my lovely, beautiful edition. Even has my bookmark still in it. But it has a lot of illustrations and just a lot of fun stuff. Let's see if I can find a colored one for you, because I think they're gorgeous. There's nothing better than an adult book that has illustrations, so that's with John Brooke and Meg. But yeah, so this one is going to be my, I guess, sequel, my number 2 in my Timeless Tomes series, as this book is over 500 pages long, so it counts as a tome. Now, this will be full of spoilers, but I will start off by saying, as with the rest of my Timeless Tomes, that I will do a non-spoiler section first, and then I will go deep into the world of spoilers for Little Women. So this is the non-spoiler section. If you have never read Little Women and you would like to, then this is why I think you should pick it up. It is amazing. It is definitely an interesting book in the sense that it is written in, like, right after the Civil War, and it's written about this family of 4 girls, Meg, who's the oldest, then Jo, then Beth, and then Amy, and their mother, who they call Marmee. So when you're reading the book, if you're confused who Marmee is, it's their mom. They also have Hannah, who's a servant in their home, and their father's off fighting the war, fighting Civil War. So it's about their adventures, their imaginations, the things they come up with and do, and all about their different ambitions in life. So this book, Little Women, is actually 2 books. It is, I believe the original copy was called Meg, Jo, Amy, and Beth, or Beth and Amy, but it became Little Women, and then the second half is Good Wives, which is after when they start getting married and start becoming adults. So the first half is definitely a children's section, and the second half is more adult. I would call this a YA book because it does feel young, but then it also has adult themes present. I also really recommend it if you are wanting a good, wholesome, like, just warm your heart kind of book. This is not the most feminine forward. It is a cast full of women, but I've heard some of my friends say that it is not very feminist and it is not very appropriate, like, or not very appropriate, but it's not very pushing the women, you know, being independent. Now, side note about that, I was looking up if this book was banned or not for one of the readathons I was reading in, which it was. This book is banned, or has been banned, for 2 reasons. The first reason was it was banned right after it was published for being too liberal, for allowing the girls to do too much without a man, which is super interesting, because then the second reason it was banned is because the women were not forward enough. They were not pushing their ideals enough, and they were not independent enough. So it's interesting how it's on both sides of the coin. It was banned. Now, I personally think it's a great read, a quick read. It makes me feel like home and warm and cozy on the inside. I do understand this book is not for everyone, but I recommend giving it a try. And if you can, if you're struggling with it, find a good audiobook of it. I think it's a fun one, but I really recommend this one, and I thought it was great. So now we're getting into the spoiler section. So you have been warned. This one is, I love how, I don't even know where to start with this book, honestly, for spoilers. So let's start with the family relationship. I love how the sisters all play a different role in each other's lives, and how Meg is very much attached to Amy, and how Jo is very attached to Beth, and they become the little mothers in the situation where they're very much forced to be on their own. I also really love how Marmee lets them take on this role of leadership in their family and helps them grow and create these skills of motherhood, of independence, of creativity. Marmee really is a facilitator for all of their hopes and dreams. She really does push them to what they want to do in life, and she really does care about what they want and tries to get them there. I really love how Marmee, like, works on the Pilgrim's Progress thing, how she really encourages them to try their best and to be good little women, because it is so, it's such a precarious situation with their family being kind of separated. Now, I do also really love all the imagination scenes. The imagination scene of all of the Dickens characters coming out, and all of the writing of that. I love how they all interact with their different games and the plays they make. It's so wonderful, and it reminds me of my childhood with my brother and my sisters as we created such crazy games. I mean, our parents probably thought we didn't love them because we were always orphans. We were always orphans on traveling into the Wild West or cleaning up leaves in the yard because someone was going to take away our baby sister. We were kind of dramatic, I guess you could say. And this reminds me of that. I really just love how it feels and how it just makes me remember my childhood. Now, I also really love how when they meet Lori, it's just such a great relationship. Lori and the girls. And you can see the development of Lori's feelings for Jo, like from the get-go. You can tell that he favors her, he really prefers her, but he loves all of the sisters. And it's also really interesting to read this and then see the beginnings of Lori and Amy, as when she's sent away when Beth has scarlet fever. And she's sent away, and Lori visits her every day and takes her out and, you know, comforts her. And he's like, you will never die without a kiss. Like, I will kiss you before you die. And it's just such a great, I love seeing that relationship develop, even though it's very much Jo is the main character. Amy is a really big part in this. Now, Jo is quite a firecracker. I think that she's just so amazing with her fearlessness and how incredible she can be with all of the bravery things that, like, she just jumps in and she doesn't care. She goes and talks to Lori's grandfather, Mr. Lawrence, about how he's been treating his grandson, and she just doesn't care how, like, it's going to come off. She just cares about doing what's right, which I think is just incredible. And then you have Meg, who's so self-absorbed in some ways, and she just wants, like, she wants a pretty life, she wants an easy life, and she's never gonna get it. And she knows that she won't get it by being a governess, and she won't get it if she marries for love. And she kind of falls into this honey trap of vanity a lot of the time. And so it's interesting when she's at the party and how Lori's like, this is not the Meg that I knew. This is different and I don't like it. And it really makes her think about what she's done to herself to really become a new person that's not a very nice person, and not very true to herself and true to her family. So it's just great with that. I also really enjoy how Amy's arc grows a lot. I love how she becomes, like, she starts off being very self-centered, very egotistical, and like so concerned about getting those lines. And then eventually she learns to prioritize family and to prioritize work and prioritize all of the things that make us part of this world. And then Beth is so sweet. No one hates Beth, I don't think. And honestly, her character is one of the saddest characters because she just doesn't have any ambition, which is fine. I mean, I understand that she wants to be a good daughter and keep the house good, but I feel like she's often stifling herself, and that kind of annoys me a little, but she's content, so I'm okay with that. But I also really loved how it kind of showed anxiety from her, how in some ways she's dealing with mental health where it comes to anxiety or depression, and she's just struggling to find the drive to go on sometimes, but she does. I also really love, I mean, I'm gonna just be completely honest here, I look for migraine representation anytime. If I see it, I will spot it right away because I have a daily migraine. And right now I have a migraine, and I always have a migraine, no matter what kind of day it is. And so to see someone in the book mention having a migraine or having a headache and going and lying down, it's not common in books. If you actually look for it, you will not see it as nearly as much as you think you would. So it was interesting to see that, and I really appreciate that. But I also really loved her gumption. So Beth does not have a lot of gumption. I would consider her very relaxed and very much let her family take the lead. But when it comes to that piano, and Mr. Lawrence basically announces to the world, anyone can use my piano, no one's gonna be listening. And so she takes him up on that offer and then makes him those slippers. Her gumption is amazing, and I really love her gumption. She just That's where she kind of grows for me. She starts out very timid and then she becomes stronger and becomes more of her own person. And I love how the family do that, like how all of the girls take this arc on. Now, I also really love how they relate with men in their lives, whether it be their father, Mr. Lawrence, Teddy or Lori, or John Brooke. I think that whole relationship is interesting with how Joe hates John for possibly taking Meg away because Joe does not want Meg to get married. But Meg finally stands up to her aunt and finally realizes, I don't care, I do not want the best in life, I want the best man I can have in life. And then I loved how it showed her marriage with John being a struggle, how she was learning how to be a wife, and how Amy was struggling in Europe at times, and learning all on their own, but then you come together with this cohesive book. I really do love this book. I think it's a really well done story, and I think it's interesting how all of these chapters are kind of, it's kind of like a short story collection where each chapter contains a story from their life and then they move on. Like they move on to the next story. So it's just really interesting. And I guess the pinnacle story of this book, I mean, there's so many great chapters. I really love how Joe learns to appreciate Amy and how Amy learns that she should not have thrown Joe's journal into the fire or book into the fire, because that's a heart-wrenching scene, but I know everyone's going to talk about that. I also really love how Joe becomes a perfect nursemaid to Beth when Beth is really sick. And then I also just, I really love Hannah, their servant. I think she's just a great character. She's always coming up with the right word to say, or she's got some gumption in her too. But on top of that, when Beth is sick and Hannah's like, we're not telling the Master and Mrs., we're not telling them at all, because they are currently in hospital for Mr. March being hurt from the war. She's not going to tell them because they have other things to worry about, and yet Beth is practically dying beside them. And then Teddy and Mr. Lawrence decide that they are not going to do this anymore, and they send a telegram calling them home, or calling Mrs. March home. And it's just great that they took that initiative, because it's like they were mad for a few seconds, but then they're like, no, we're actually really relieved that you called him back. But yeah, so I don't know, there's just so many great things about this book. And then when Beth dies, it breaks your heart. You can feel the pain of Joe, of Amy, who's in Europe, who can't get home to see her sister. And you feel the pain of Meg, who is there to watch it all happen, in spite of having to take care of her own children and her own home, so she can't be there all the time. It's so heartbreaking sometimes. But yeah, I really love this book. I gave it 5 stars, and I hope that I continue to love the series as I continue reading for the Louisa May 2020. Next month is Little Men, which I have never, I don't think I've ever read Little Men. I've watched the movie, but I don't think I've ever read it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Little Women. Please let me know down below your favorite character, your favorite scene, even your favorite chapter, because there's so many good chapters in Little Women. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time with my December wrap-up, and I will tell you this already, it's gonna be a big one. I read a lot of books and I'm still not done. So thank you again. I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.